Coach, looking at this conference, you guys were the last team to win a national title back in 2008. It's seen as the best conference, one of the best conferences in the country. What do you think goes into that? I mean, and I know you can't win a national title every year, but you would think routinely the best conference would, kind of get that. It's been 7 or 8 years since that's happened. What kind of goes into that drought?
Yeah, I guess it's been 7 years, and we were in the finals game in 12. I think people that really understand ball know how hard it is to not only get there, but to win 2 games once you're there. And I don't think you look at, you can look at a lot of different things on it's a drought or this or that. I'm not sure I see it that way at all. I guess the ACC, I guess Carolina won in 09 and Duke's won 2 since then. Louisville won it in the Big East. I'm trying to think who else has won it. I don't know if we've had a Big Ten team win one in a long while, if I'm not mistaken, have we? Michigan State maybe in 2001, something like that. So that didn't mean the Big Ten didn't have a great basketball league. But I do know that we need to perform better in the postseason. Collectively as a conference, we've done too well during the regular season not to perform better then.
You talked about the rules changes. The 30-second one may be a little overrated, but are there other ones out there that you think are really going to impact you guys this year?
I think that the 5-second closely guarded rule that's no longer in effect, I think is going to definitely change how people play the end of ball games and the end of halves. I think moving the arc out a foot will have a little bit of impact. I think the reduced shot clock will have some impact. I think the timeout won't have a lot of impact. But what's been done is things to try to speed up the pace and basically shorten the games from a real time standpoint. But the biggest thing is the hand checking and the freedom of movement that have always been rules that will now be emphasized and called. The most physical team in the past, it seemed like to me, always had an advantage. And we took great pride in our teams being physical. The most physical team now, the team that hits first, the team that doesn't allow you to get to your spot, things like that, those are going to be the teams in foul trouble that the other opponents are shooting a lot of free throws. So it's going to become a finesse game, may not be the right word, but you can almost use that word, that there'll be more freedom of movement and more room for guys to actually make plays offensively. I think the defense, for the most part, is going to be at a big disadvantage, although there's things offensively that you can't do that will also put you at a disadvantage. But I think there's going to be a ton of free throw shot. I'll be shocked if games in which my team plays doesn't have multiple games this year where there's 60 free throw shot. And it may not seem like that's possible, but that's a lot of stoppages, and that makes for a long game. Fans will have to be patient too.
How do you guys, in particular, counteract that? Because, like you said, you've been a physical defensive team for.
I've got to get back, and even though I've known this was happening, but I haven't coached the first 3 weeks of practice. Telling our guys, emphasizing that. We've been emphasizing just meat and potatoes. Okay, this is how we guard. This is how we want to run our stuff. This is the basic principles in which we play, and now we really have to do a good job the next 3 weeks of getting our guys to do those same things within the guidelines of how the game's going to be called, which will be very difficult for players because the natural instinct for everybody is to put their hands on somebody, whether it be a block out, whether it be fighting for post position, whether it be a front and a cutter, regardless of what it is. And the way it's been explained to all us coaches is those are all going to be fouls now moving forward.
How long do you expect it'll take? I mean, especially seniors that have been playing one way for 3 years. How
Well,
long
I think
will that take?
I think it'll take 2 or 3 years. I don't think that. I think we'll say now, even in March, when a play is called, that's not a foul. Well, yeah, it is a foul. I think we'll be having that happen for a couple of years. I don't think this is something that's fixed overnight or in a couple of months or anything like that. But guys are going to have to play smart. They're going to have to be disciplined, and certainly coaches are going to have to coach it in a way that gives them the best chance to have the best players on the floor when it counts the most.
With all the rule changes, do you just like sit down with your guys once and then go over everything like they did earlier, or is it going to be like throughout the rest of the month?
Oh no, it'll be throughout the rest of the season. But you brought up a good point, because I intentionally haven't really spent a lot of time with our guys on this until we met with Curtis, and we've gone through everything and really had it spelled out where I understood it better. Where they're absolutes, exactly how can you guard the post, what can you do, what is going to be considered in the official's mind a foul, and so we'll show them video, and we'll also educate them, and then Curtis will also come to camp, come to school and watch us practice, watch us play again. We will with everybody, and then give us a better feel on how we're coaching and how we're playing, because it's going to be a major adjustment for guys. The offensive player, in my opinion, is going to have such a big advantage that defensive guys are going to have to really, really play smart.
Does that shift how you use Frank at all, too, since he's one of those guys maybe can take advantage?
Well, you would think so. You would think if you got guards that can get in there, the hardest thing to guard is the ball. And if you think you got some guards that are good with the ball, that will give you a chance to do that, because what people will probably do is back off more and play more contained defense. But still, the tendency is when you play contained defense is you're not in attack mode as much offensively, when the reality of it is it gives you a run and start to be in more attack mode. So I think guards and players that understand that will have an advantage.
Bill, a few years ago, Shaka Smart provided his worst nightmare in San Antonio. When you learned that he was joining the league, what was your reaction?
Well, first of all, I've had a lot of bad nightmares. So I wouldn't say that that's the worst one ever. That's one of many that we've had. But I thought it was, I love Rick, and I love to compete against Rick's teams, and we had some epic battles over the years. But I was happy for Shaka. I think he's a really good coach. He's a good guy, and I think he'll bring energy and enthusiasm to the Longhorns, and I think that they'll continue to be very, very, very good. And so I think it's a positive for our league to have a guy like Shaka.
Because of the returning players this year, do you feel this league overall is better equipped to challenge what KU has established with its consecutive titles?
I would think so. You have the best three players in the league returning on paper. You would be obviously Buddy, George, Perry, and then you throw in the two guys at Baylor, which are veteran guys. I think they're both seniors now, if I'm not mistaken, and they were in the Pan Am trials. One of them, if I'm not mistaken, made it. So I mean, those are really good players, and you have Cousins and Woodard and Spangler at OU. I mean, you got, and then all the guys at Iowa State, whether it be Morris or McKay or Long or whoever. You got so much experience in the league. Devin Williams at West Virginia. You got so much experience that I don't know if we have a Durant or a Beasley or a Griffin, but we got probably more good players in our league right now than I can ever remember us having.
Hey, Bill, you talked about playing the two small guards together. If one of those have to be off the court, what's your plan there? Do you shift Selden back over?
Yeah, or Svi. We'll play. It'll be just like, and that's going to happen a lot with fouls. But it'll be like it has been. But I certainly anticipate playing them as much together as we can.
So it's okay to shift Selden over and have him play
absolutely.
two. So, okay.
The way that we've always played, and at least the way that we have when we had our better teams is that the perimeter players are positionless and the interior players are positionless. We play bigs and we play littles, and all of them are taught to do the same thing. So it's certainly an advantage to have point guard mentality in the game. But hey, if something happens and we can't play that way all the time, we won't play that way all the time.
How do you feel about Svi's ball handling then too?
I think it's gotten better. I still think he turns it over way too much, but certainly he's a much better player than he was last year, much stronger.
What big guys are emerging now?
You know what? I don't know that they are. I think Hunter looks good. I think Landon looks good. I think Jamari looks good. and Perry's been by far our best player so far. And to me, maybe our two best prospects are our freshmen. So I mean, we got good balance in the front court without question. We've got 6 guys that I'm confident we can put in there at any time.
I believe it was last year when Sweet was starting at the beginning of the year, and you said that he was one of the more conscientious players on defense. What do you think his ceiling is on that side of the ball?
On defense?
Yeah.
Well, he's a good athlete. He's stronger. He can slide. He's getting tougher. I think he can be a good defensive player. But the way a good defensive player now is somebody that's a position guy. That's somebody that can, play with his head and his feet, not his hands as much. I think it's going to remains to be seen what a good defensive player is. Because in the past, we look at a good defensive player as somebody that can lock you down, somebody's physical, somebody knock you off your spot, things like that. Well, those things now are fouls. So even the stronger, more physical guys are going to have to play much smarter.
Does that impact recruiting at all? I mean, look.
I don't think so. I haven't gotten that far yet. I don't think. I think as a coach, you want to get the best players, and then you need to teach them how to be within your system. So I don't think that will impact anything.
What's your opinion of the proposed rule about the NBA combine?
With the guys that can test it.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good. I don't think it's the end result that anybody wants, NBA or us, but I think it's a good big step in the right direction. They can't adjust their dates to accommodate us, obviously, right now because there's a collective bargaining agreement. We can kind of adjust ours as much as we can to accommodate them, but the fact of the matter, if kids are, I shouldn't say if they're smart, because that's not the right word, because kids are smart, but if kids can be educated to the point where there's really no advantage of dropping out of school to go train until the NBA lets you know if you're even worthy of being an invitee to the combine. If you're not an invitee to the combine, you're not a draft pick. I mean, if they're going to take 60 guys plus the foreign guys or whatever, and you're not one of those guys that they think is even worth watching, then the chances are pretty good that that's a positive statement that you should stay in school. So I think it'll affect a lot of guys in a good way, that they can find out where they're at and not make bad decisions to jump. The question is now, will kids stay in school throughout this entire process? Because if they stay in school, obviously there's nothing that could keep them from coming back. But if you do go ahead and leave, then you obviously have potential amateurism issues with agents and expenses.
Is there a certain number in your rotation that you like?
You look like Trent Green.
I've been told that before, actually.
You look like Sam McDowell. You do. So,
Is there a certain number in your rotation that
can you
you
throw
would
the ball like
to?
Trent?
I wish.
What number was Trent?
I wouldn't be
What
here
number
if
was
I
Trent?
was 10.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
Is there a certain number in your rotation that you would like to hit?
9. I think this year we could play 9.
Do you feel like this team's going to test that?
Yeah, I do. I think we can play 5 perimeter players, and I think we can play 4 big guys. But the way that the meeting I just set through, I think there's a chance you could play 11 this year, because I think everybody's going to foul until they get used to the game. I think inside depth's going to be important.
With these rule changes, do you ever kind of sit around and wonder, like, what's it going to be next year? It seems like there's a new emphasis almost every year.
But the thing about it is, with these rule changes aren't bad. They're not bad. I think they're going to be good over time. It's just going to take some time to get used to. We let the game go long enough and far enough that now any change that we need to make to get it back to where it should be is going to probably be drastic or seem drastic. So I think once we kind of get our grips on this, I think that the things that we'll be doing moving forward is more tweaking. But we got to break it down and kind of start again. And so this is going to be a rough year in that regard to get it to where it needs to be.
Do you favor the 6 fouls then for foul out? I mean, that's all that's going to move that way.
I don't think we talked about that. I don't think that there's anything moving that direction.
Okay.
In theory, it sounds good, but I don't know if Big East experimented with that before. And from what I was just told in our meeting, that all that did was just allow guys off the bench to be more physical and foul. And so it really didn't add to the purity of the game.
So, in light of the Louisville situation, I mean, how do you approach the view of the head coach and responsibility over everything in the program, especially stuff where you can't see your players all the time, every waking moment?
But I think Nicole, I think that is. I haven't studied that situation. I haven't read the article that supposedly I guess came out today or yesterday. Is that right? So I don't know the details or the so-called facts that go along with everything. I do know it's sad. I mean, it certainly doesn't shed a positive light on our sport at all. But with that being said, there's so many things that you group into stuff that I don't know that's totally fair to coaches. I mean, so you have an isolated incident like this, and then you have an academic incident or something like that I think that all coaches know that we are accountable for our program. And I think there are steps that all coaches take to make sure the people that are working with us or for us understand the value of their job and what they can and cannot do and their responsibilities to report things if they see things. That is all done, I'm sure, at every school. I know we spend a ton of time on it in ours. But even with that being said, there could still be somebody that would do something that you would have no idea about that could create, obviously, a very negative influence or impact on your program. That I think it's hard to keep somebody totally accountable for something that you have educated and you tried to do. You can say your son and daughter down every day, dinner table, we're doing this, you're never going to get in a car with this person, you're never going to do this, you're never going to do that, blah, 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 blah. And they make a bad decision and they do that, and all of a sudden you don't disown your kids, even though you could be very, very disappointed. And that's kind of the way I look at this. I think that head of Sprint, Verizon, AT&T, whatever major companies there are, I bet you their CEO has some employees sometimes that does something that goes against company policies, even though they've been educated over and over what they can and can't do. But still yet, the CEO is ultimately responsible. But the fact of the matter is, sometimes I think that the coach sometimes gets a bad name for stuff that people assume that they can control, when in all honesty, we go to unbelievable lengths to make sure we do it. Some things are just out of our control.
Any update on Shaq?
No update on Shaq.
Okay.
First question I've been asked today. It shocks me. But we think that there could be an update, obviously, soon, because our season starts here, in 3 weeks, I guess. But the reality of it is he's practicing and hasn't been cleared to play. But we do think it'll come to a conclusion here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. And then just to touch on the depth, what do you think this team's depth is compared to like the past few years?
Well, people say this is the deepest team we had in some ways, and I said, hold on a second. Cole Aldrich was a lottery pick. Marcus Morris was a lottery pick. Markeith Morris was a lottery pick. Thomas Robbins was a lottery pick. And Jeff Withey was our sixth best big man, and he's never gotten a game. Now, that's a pretty deep front line. That didn't count Mario Little. I mean, so that's a pretty deep front line. This team isn't like that, but we do have bodies, and I think this will be a year, as much as any, that you're going to need bodies with the foul emphasis. So I like our depth. We're not near as deep on the perimeter as we are inside, but it is nice to have a situation where you have that many big bodies you can run out there.
Watching a game. Performing well in March, Perry said something about that, and Hunter did too, and big things on Wayne. Is that something really coaches talk about? Or do you talk to the players about it?
Well, yeah, we'll talk about it, but I maybe I'm wrong. I don't make a big emphasis on that stuff. I mean, what happened last March in one game? I think there's reasons why things happen. I think sometimes you get lucky. I think sometimes you get unlucky. I think sometimes you're healthy, sometimes you're not. There's a lot of things that go into it. So I don't look at the end result as much as I look in what could we do different from a preparation standpoint. Are our guys tired? Do we need to do different things throughout the season to try to allow them to be fresher late? Things like that's what I look at. So,
my wife's going to they're going to come in here and kind of look around.
We'll talk about it, but it won't be one of those things. I don't think I'll talk about it in a way to create worry with our guys. If anything, hey guys, we got to be loose. We're going to be loose. We're going to be this. We're going to be that. But you know what? Why did that happen? Were we a little out of focus? Did distractions get to us? Were there some things going on that we can eliminate or do better this year? That would probably be how I address it.
So you seem excited. You're talking about maybe making a deep run. Are you okay with that? I mean, he was.
Guys should be excited. Everybody this time of year is undefeated. Everybody should be excited. Everybody thinks that they're a tournament team. Everybody envisions that we could be the last team standing. I mean, everybody does that, and some teams' goals are different than others. But hey, trust me, there's going to be 50 teams that think that. And if your players didn't think that, you'd be so disappointed. So I heard somebody asked Frank earlier. I was listening. What's your goal? And he said, win every game. Well, that's not realistic, but that should be your goal because every time you line up to play, your goal is to win that game. I mean, and the way we look at it, we should if we do what we're supposed to do. So I like our guys thinking big.
So you were talking a little bit about scheduling. You guys always play big teams and challenge yourselves. I feel like, casual fans, not campus fans, maybe pay more attention to football in November, December,
sure.
And then pick it up in conference play. But isn't it so important, some of these November, December matchups, to conferences and kind of the pecking order, but also individual wins that might help seeding and stuff?
I think so. You look at us last year. We played Michigan State in Orlando, and who would have? Those were not two good teams playing. I mean, it was too early in the season, but you had a 2 seed, and then you had a team that went to the Final Four. And I think those type of games are good. One thing that is so good about our sport that is better than football, in my opinion, is that you can actually find out who you are by through tough times and through losses. But in football, you can't. I mean, in football, you lose a game earlier, or you lose 2 games in a regular season, you're out. In our sport, hey, those games are important, and but more than anything, they let you know your strengths and weaknesses and what needs to be addressed. And so, I do think it's important. It's a topic, Nicole, that a lot of people talk about. How do we make the regular season more meaningful? And a lot of the talk is, we need to start it later because football dominates it so much. But the reality is that right now we're not going to start it later. So I think as much as we can do to play those marquee games, I think brings as much attention to our sport as anything right now.
It helps, but it's specifically helping your resume.
Right. Oh yeah. A lot of people don't understand. You go 1-3 or 1-2 in those big games. At the end of the day, you've got a big time quality win, as opposed to going 4-0 against nobody. And at the end of the day, you got no quality win. And I think so much of it is who you play, but more so anyway, give yourself a chance to beat somebody. You guys remember a few years ago, Georgia was like 17-15, and they played like 25 games against the top 25 or something. So of course their record wasn't going to be as good, but they got in without any problem because of RPI, and they beat good people. So
Shaq's still in catch-up mode in practice.
Yeah. He's going to be in catch-up mode for a while. It's going to take him some time, but he's trying hard. He's doing, he gets better every day. But there's a lot of things that's just real new to him. Real new.
Is that because he's new to basketball, or just?
I think it's a combination of everything. I think not being with us this summer. I think, and I also think, being knocked out 3 or 4 weeks this fall. I think, even though that was limited, I think it hurt him. And then the other fact, he's new to the game. I mean, he's so new to the game.
He understands,
What do you think of game 4?
when our E to B to C doesn't work, you can give him
we throwing Vocas? No, we're throwing. We're throwing Christian. Well, this would be our bonus game. If we could get this one, this would be. My thinking is, and this sounds dumb to say, if you win 1 out of 3, we're right where we want to be. I mean, so then you got to be able to win 1 and 2 at home. So I'm okay with what happened. And a matter of fact, if Cueto's going to be our Game 7 pitcher, if it goes to that, probably better that he's a Game 7 pitcher throwing 60 pitches as opposed to 120. So I don't understand baseball, but that's kind of how I see it. So they've done great, and nobody should be discouraged by those bats getting hot, because Toronto's obviously got an unbelievable offensive lineup.
Did you get to the park for a game?
Yeah, I went Saturday. Yeah, it was awesome. It's so cool.
times have changed, but Scott Pollard had a rant on Facebook. He said his dad wouldn't let him play basketball all year round. He made him play soccer and baseball. And he said guys are all getting hurt because they have to play all year round. Not KU guys, but and when you were little,
oh no, I think
played all the sports.
I think kids should play all sports. I think when they get to be a junior or something like that, maybe they should specialize. But I don't see any reasons why kids shouldn't play multiple sports. Scott has probably done all the research on all the injuries of all the guys that have been hurt during his studies. But I do agree with him. I think it's I think our kids are I think it's more healthy too to be able to be a part of different teams and play different sports. And I guarantee you, basketball definitely helps football players. There's people that say that we love recruiting basketball guys that played football for toughness, and baseball or running track I think would be an unbelievable sport, or playing soccer for any athlete to do to help them. So I think there's positives with all of them.
Sharon turned out all right.
Sharon turned out okay. Yeah, he was pretty good at all of them.
Yeah.
But why won't they do it?
I think there's pressure on kids to specialize. I think parents may put some on them, but the traveling teams or programs in different sports, if you're paying a lot of money for kids to play soccer and train them and do all that stuff, I don't know if you want to do that if they're spending half their time playing baseball at the same time soccer season's going on. So I think it is. I think it's a good question, but certainly one that shouldn't be addressed until they get in high school. I think kids should play everything.
Biggest concern this